you're building this company in a world that is changing, and it's changing rapidly, right? The pace of change in technology is kind of insane. I think nobody actually really understands what it is right now, between the, techno optimists that are like, we're going to have AGI next year, and, maybe we're going to pause for a while. But the pace of change in technology is rapid.
Yep.
Often caused by technology. There's a lot of societal change happening at every level, how people communicate, globalization, you name it. This is causing problems for a lot of established organizations, governments, enterprises, you name it. They are really struggling to stay current and stay connected. So, we were talking earlier and you mentioned you're seeing a lot more focus on startups. Do you think that's like, is that an attempt by corporations to stay connected, stay current? Is something else going on?
I think absolutely. I mean, I think that that's 100% what it is. I mean, if you think about too, just how larger organizations can stay current, you only have a few options, and really it kind of boils down into two. You could either take your shot at every new and innovative thing that could happen that's within the sphere of where you are and just try to participate in all of it, or you could partner with a bunch of different startups, see what rises to the top, see which things the zeitgeist out there, like what is actually resonating with a large group of people, and then just acquire that company and then put it under your umbrella, right? So, but if you have to weigh those two options of like, well, do I just want to participate and build everything using my own resources, or do I want to take a lot of small bets, see which ones rise to the top, and then snatch those? Like, that is such a better path. And I think with all of the new things that are happening right now with AI and all of this like explosion of technology, I think you're starting to see, especially in our sector, which is the finance sector, which is a little bit more of a laggard sector, I would argue.
Sure.
A lot of these companies are starting to get significantly more involved in partnering with startups, and I think that that's why. I think that they just need to understand, where is the consumer going, what is actually resonating with the consumer without using an outsized amount of their own resources. And you're seeing, M&A, like buy the companies that are actually resonating with a large group of people. And that is how these companies stay relevant, right?
It's the only way. I think. Look, I think it's the only way. You mentioned, you have this choice. Do we try and build it ourselves? Like, in my mind, that way lies madness. I don't know if you know John Gruber. He follows that Apple ecosystem and Mac. But I was listening to a podcast with him and Ben Thompson the other day, and he said every once in a while he says something really smart, and this one really stuck out at me. And I've got the quote up here. It's no matter how big and successful any company gets, history has always shown that an internal culture of not invented here is, for everything across the board, the path to ruin, the path to painting yourself into a corner, right? Yep. And unfortunately, I will say, in my experience, this problem of it's not invented here, therefore I don't want to do it. And the flip side of that is we're just going to try and build everything we need ourselves. Yeah. It's pretty pervasive in the world. So I got two questions for you.
Yep.
One, do you see that changing? And two, how does that impact Forecastr? Because as companies get bigger, or maybe you start intersecting with more established companies, I have to imagine you do come up against we can build something.
Yeah, you do kind of. I would say come across that. I mean, I think that I generally really resonate with that quote. I will say one of the things that I've always found to be true, and just kind of working with a bunch of startups, obviously, because that's who we work with, but partnering with larger companies, and Forecastr has a lot of different partnerships with a lot of major companies. It's just that the passion that comes with a small group of people that are basing their lives around solving a really hard problem is just, in my experience, unmatched by what you find in corporate environments. And I think that one of the for all the benefits that that larger corporations have with the war chest that they have at their disposal and all of that. They have a lot of weaknesses too. And this is why starting companies and startups are so important. A startup, if Forecastr wanted to completely pivot our strategy, we could do that in a week, right?
Yep.
That is how quick we can act, right? That is how quickly we can read the market, because we're a team of 36 people and we talk all the time. We're super close. Now, if I'm a large company, if I got thousands of employees, tens of thousands of employees, I can't move with the market like that. I just can't. I don't have the ability to do that. And so that's why, I mean, people ask, like, how are you as a startup going to compete with, maybe Microsoft, because that's Excel, right? I mean, they've been around forever.
I hate that question, but
I
yeah,
know, and
go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, and it's a
Yeah.
lazy investor question, if I'm being harsh about it. But like the answer is, it's really two things. It's, we can pivot 100 times faster than they can, which is very underrated. That is
Yep.
like an incredibly important thing. And B, like, where our technology may lack compared to theirs, our humans and our ability to solve a problem by whatever means necessary will outpace theirs, because our customer has our full and undivided attention.
Yep.
Full and undivided, versus this bigger corporation where this is a footnote of a footnote.
And that, I think, is actually both in my perspective, that's the most important answer to this lazy investor question, or frankly, the question that you might get from your uncle, your mother, that it's like, "Ooh, why are you taking this risk?" Right? But like, but it's also part of this conversation about the importance of rethinking innovation inside corporations, right? Like, it's not just that you can pivot more quickly. It's not just that you're more passionate, and it's not actually just that it's the thing that you do. Because of all of those things, you have more resource, you have more money, you have more time, you have more passion focused on this problem than the large company's ever going to have. You are going to win to an extent, until and unless you need the distribution and scale. And in a changing world, in that world, it feels to me like these large companies really need to be paying attention. It feels like the Microsofts of the world should be a strong partner with Forecastr, because ultimately you benefit them in some way.
100%. And you see it in practice. I mean, like in our case, Microsoft quite literally is a massive partner of Forecastr. You know what I mean? And that's just one of our partners. But and it all comes back to that tried and true playbook that has been run by corporations, at least at some extent, for the past several years, which is, I mean, at varying degrees of activity, you see it all the time. Corporations partner with startups and they get involved and they see what's resonating and what's not. And then they acquire the ones that seem to be working out really well. And that's just there's a reason that this has been happening for a long period of time. It's because that's just a better way to grow as a large organization. I mean, if you think about it, companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, I mean, billions, if not trillions of dollars at their disposal. Right. So they've got so much money, so much like of a war chest that is built up, that a portion of that is literally for this, is to look at what is something interesting that we could acquire to strengthen our own brand. Right.
100%.
And so if you do that and you weigh that against just like hiring a bunch of people, building departments, confusing your internal organization for, oh, now we're focusing on this, but no, now we're focusing on that. And how does this all add up? Like, it's just kind of a mess. And it just makes so much more sense just to be a nimble startup partner with them. And in a lot of ways, I'd like to turn that question on its head, where they're like, how are you going to compete with, XYZ big corporation? It's like, how are they going to compete with us? Right. This is our world. This is our entire life.
By the way, that's a founder mentality. I love that. Say that again. How are they going to compete with us?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the mentality you have to have. So, but yeah, it's a great question.